the listener identifies an issue with flood and disaster relief. Should that be a federal prerogative or is that a state power? I think a compelling point can be made that that's one thing that states historically have focused on. Again, when we refer to general police powers, we're talking about the power to just do things that you expect a government can do and you're not really worried about finding a source of authority. That's generally where you look to the states, or at least in the past where we did. And I think that's one area where we ought to focus, one of many areas where we ought to focus on getting that power back to the states, keeping that money back to the states in the states to begin with.
But could Louisiana, for example, have dealt with Katrina? I mean, that would have absolutely broken the bank. What should the federal government? I mean, in an ideal way, should the federal government have been involved in that at all?
Look, they were, and I generally make a practice of not unnecessarily and futilely going back a few years and saying we shouldn't have done that, because the fact is that we did. We did in that circumstance.
Let's look forward, is what you're saying.
Yes, exactly. But looking forward, I think we need to look to the fact that states face different kinds of risks, and each state can prepare differently and will prepare differently for the different kinds of risks. We don't face that same kind of threat from a hurricane as an inland landlocked state. But we do face threats from earthquakes, and we can prepare for them. States will prepare differently if they understand that it's their responsibility rather than that of the federal government.
Are you saying that if the government would have stayed out of it, the country could have worked out the issues that are being dealt with these programs, like poverty, like food safety, like the list, which we could go through, but. This goes to what is the proper role of the government if it isn't to find us? You don't think it is to provide a social safety net for people.
I've never said that isn't the proper role of government. What I've said is that it's not necessarily the proper role of the federal government. I think it's important to ask the question, not just should government do this? What is the proper role of government? But which government are you talking about? Because
you say the framers intended that state lawmakers deal with that, not the federal lawmakers.
Absolutely. As James Madison put it in the Federalist Papers, Federalist number 41, the powers of the federal government are few and defined, whereas the powers of the state governments are relatively undefined and generally without limit.